Call this meeting to order, determine there's a quorum. Commissioner Wardlaw, Commissioner Vasquez is out. Commissioner Nettleton, Commissioner Flores, and myself, we have a quorum. Commissioner Picado, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Nettleton, if you would, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge to honor the allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. There you go. Don't memorize that one. Well, I didn't have my paper.
It's been years since we've been here and I've never done it.
Yeah, I know.
Approving minutes,
Move. Second.
got a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 6, we had citizens' comments. Call them in the order that it was given to me, which would be Ms. Fuentes first. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know whether y'all have any order.
No, thank you. Thank you for considering that. Good morning, Judge Owens and County Commissioners. My name is Sandra Fuentes. I'm co-chair of the board organization. I'm here to address, item number 28, discussion possible action on Vapor Centers Road project. A couple of things. 2 weeks ago, it was very concerning to us when we heard, I think it was you, Judge Owens, and Commissioner Nettleton, saying that if we were to undertake this project and borrow money, I think we heard you say that the possibility of we not doing any major projects within the county for the next 3 years. That was very unsettling to us. I think that our hands would be tied. We're not too clear as to why the reason is that we couldn't apply or haven't applied for a grant. I'm not too sure. And then second of all, in light of that, one of the commissioners is absent this morning. We would highly suggest that the court table this item. And I know that it's been pushed back several times, but for the sake of the possibility of us not being able to do any projects, if we're to borrow this amount of money, minimum of 6.5, probably even more than that, is very scary to us because our hands again would be tied in future projects. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, sir.
Thank you. My name is Sergio Rodriguez. I'm the president of Escondido Estates Resident Association. Thank you, Judge Owens and County Commissioners, for allowing me to speak this morning. First, in regards to, I think 2 commissioners meetings ago, thank you, Commissioner Wardlaw, for finally meeting with, it was like 2 or 3 of us that were here at the meeting. I did relay back the information, back to our residents, and basically the only thing they're asking for is, like I said, for us, me being self-employed, I know it's a little easier for me to come, in the mornings, but of course, there's some residents that do have additional questions and would like to, meet with you. Unfortunately, they can't come to the meetings, the morning meetings because of work. So we are going to be having a house meeting pretty soon, which I'll invite you, and I hope you can attend so we can answer some of those questions. Like I said, anytime we have other questions, I'm definitely going to stay after Commissioner's Court to talk to you. But as far as other residents that are unable to attend, I won't be having a house meeting, and like I said, I'll send you an invitation, sir, so you can try to attend that. Also, in regards to some items that are currently on the agenda, I think there's like 3 invoices that either are going to get approved or not, and we would like just to kind of know what those invoices are for. If we can have a discussion, maybe next commissioners meeting in regards to the update on the entrance as well, because we have not heard anything in regards. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the county has already purchased those two easements that they needed, or no? Just one? Okay, so just an update on those. Like I said, it's been an ongoing problem now that the railroad does continue to stop there. Of course, we are able to move it real quick thanks to Sheriff Joe. So thank you, Sheriff Joe Frank. But like I said, it's just becoming an ongoing issue. And then lastly, gentlemen, a few commissioners meetings ago, I want to say about 3 or 4 commissioners meetings ago, there was some items on the agenda in regards to county equipment being stored on a county employee's property, and of course, county equipment being used on a residence, house, This court asked for proof, pictures, videos. We sent them in, not only to the Commissioner's Court, but also to the County Attorney's Office. It got put on the agenda. We were under the impression they were gonna do an explanation as to why this was going on, but no, all that happened was it got voted 5-0, and you guys ratified something that had been going on for quite a while now. So, you pretty much just said, you know what, put it on pen and papers. This is an ongoing issue. I mean, there was equipment that had been stored there for probably a year. Why county backhoes were being used on a resident's private property, that's kind of what we wanted, but all that got done was it got ratified. So basically, all we're asking is for, accountability, not just put something up for discussion and, just to say it's okay now, something that's been going on for a while. Thank you.
Melissa, on the property, it's bills to be paid right now, that tract of land, we got in the PO, 5,000 and change, for that property, is that right? And it's on bills to be paid, let's go back.
That's the invoice in question?
That is an invoice that we turned in last week.
It is on the list, Judge.
Okay. You want a physical copy of it?
Making sure, no, I'm just making sure.
Oh.
So, under judge's comments, I'm gonna take care of that piece of property. The property, we got, and then 2 weeks ago, it was supposed to be on bills to be paid. We had an issue with a signed contract signed. Both tracks, both lot 45 and 46, and you correct me if I'm wrong, both 45 and 46 should be purchased, hopefully by Thursday. Okay. The other deal was that Commissioner, we'd already talked about a fence, so we were working on getting bids since the county crew is not going to, stop me if I'm wrong, the county crews are not going to be putting up the fence. There was going to be a process, a bid process to put the fence up, so that way it would get done quicker. Okay. So the road, I think that a couple of weeks or a week ago, they were already looking at moving forward with the bids on the fence. Okay. So Thursday, hopefully I can walk across the street and sign the company a check, and then we're done with the property. All right. I'm gonna go, if y'all don't mind. We have people here, and I'm sure y'all, like everybody else, takes time out of their day. Y'all don't mind, I'm gonna go to item 26, if y'all are okay with this, discussing possible action on a second international bridge. The reason that I put this on, was not to take another vote, but in case the city would send us an answer, we would be able to talk about it in open court and then present it, in open court. The city has not, responded to a letter that we've given them. Did visit with John Sheedy a little bit on Thursday about other projects, and the bridge did come up. He said that they would try to get us something, if not this week, hopefully by the beginning of next week, a response to the letter that the county had sent. So again, this was put on there because I didn't know whether we would get a response, and if we did, I'd like to not have to wait 2 weeks to put it out. But at this point, we do not have a formal, I have a response, but it's not a formal response, so I'd rather wait to see what they send us in writing. Is there any questions on that from the members of the court? Okay, then no other action on item 26 needs to be taken. Work. We did item 6, citizens' comments. Item 7, approving monthly reports of elected officials. Motion, Commissioner Flores. Second, Commissioner Nettleton. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 8, approving bills for payment.
Second.
On the motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 9, discussion possible action to approve auditor's report.
Second.
On the motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 10, discussion possible action on the following budget adjustments. A, Constable Precinct 3,
Why are
145.
we doing this? He has money in trouble, right?
That would be a question for the sheriff, but,
No, this was Constable.
oh, constable. He has money in which one?
That constable before applies for all other funds for their travel and training every year, and there's an account there with travel and training in it.
There should be in a special revenue fund?
Yes.
Yeah, for travel training, could be.
There should be. There
Sure.
was money there when the last one.
We can check the fund balance, but
Can,
I don't see why there wouldn't be.
can we table this and bring it back after executive session?
Absolutely, we'll figure it out. by
Confirm the
then.
numbers.
Motion approved.
Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner
Second.
Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. All right. B, County Clerk, $4,837.45 from general capital outlay to county clerk capital outlay for
You don't
purchase.
have special funds for that?
That was the one that, Judge, you told me to go ahead and,
Put it on.
yeah, put it on.
Bring it to
No, I'm just asking if you have out of your other funds money to pay for this.
Because that was budgeted at the beginning of the year, correct?
Yeah. Motion approved.
Second. Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item C, County Clerk, $30,749.25 from available appropriations, other electronic expenses, election system and software expenses.
No, I don't have the
What is this for?
money. To pay ES&S, election services.
We don't get money from the state to pay it?
There
I thought we
was,
got election money from the state.
there may have been
look
some
into it.
problem on it at one time,
There was all the money.
but it's not there anymore.
Okay, what would you like to do? Would you like to table and get back to
You're
the
gonna have to
executive
take it
session,
out of
or would you like to go to
You're
continue?
gonna take it out of contingency. Motion to approve out of contingency.
Second. A motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Before we get into the D, E, F, G, H, I, I've already spoke, with, Sheriff. We had a good conversation last week about these items, and there will be an adjustment in the next budget.
So are we gonna do them or we're not gonna do them?
We need to do it.
Why are we, Sheriff, why are we moving money from travel and training back to reserves if we just moved money out of reserves and put it over there? 2 meetings ago, we moved money out of reserves, and now we're moving money back.
So these monies were going to be used for, travel and training for the school-based law enforcement that we thought we were going to have to send a bunch of people out. So these monies came to the sheriff's office as a reserves account, through the agreement that we have with the school district for training on the school-based law enforcement.
So they paid it and then,
Yes, sir. So we have a total of, the agreement was a total of $45,000 going into the reserves account. So we moved money thinking that we're going to have to move it. We did move $15,000 into ammo, and then we took back, the last time that we moved money back because we purchased weapons, so there was a surplus of money that we moved back, something like $2,200 back into the reserves account. And this is part of the agreement we have with the school district.
So in items D, E, F, G, H, I, and J, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that for discussion.
Second, Commissioner Flores.
Sheriff, you're moving, quite a bit of money to your operating. Are you running low on money there or what?
Yes, so we had planned a couple of meetings ago to move $15,000 to be able to continue operating. We had projected some expenses, so we didn't move the money, so now we're, I think, over $500 in operating, so we have to finish out the year. 500? So we have to finish out the year.
Does that include all encumbered POs, whether they've been purchased or not?
Yes.
Are you gonna purchase all those? Or, you know,
Yes. The meeting before this one, when he brought that the last time or whatever, that was a conversation that we'd had with him, if he could clean up some of what was encumbered, and that's what they were looking at, and we looked at his balance on, Thursday, or what, Thursday or Friday?
Thursday or Friday, yes, sir.
There was $504, I think, or something in his account. The conversation was, if we have this much money in animal control, I need to do a better job budgeting it. So we've had that conversation.
yeah, that's a lot of money coming out of animal control. We just don't need it. Because in a week, we're gonna have this discussion about the budget.
I took $26,000 out of animal control in the budget that we're looking at now. If that answers your question.
Okay.
All right. I had a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. And 4-0 vote, and that included for items D, E, F, G, H, I, and J. Item 11, requesting, motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 12, discussion possible action, approve the treasurer's report. This one we do have. Second.
How's the interest going over there? Is it up?
I'm sorry, sir.
The interest?
Yes, much better than what we were getting last year.
Where are we at?
5 something, or something, or, I didn't check it.
No, just
I can
ballpark.
tell you right now, we're
You're above .001.
0.49, I think, depending on which company we're with.
I think one of them was 7, 8, the other one was a little bit higher, 0.47. I had a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, who seconded that? Second. Had a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 13, discussion possible act presentation. Ports of Plains, sir, you're up. How are we doing today?
Great, Judge. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing better, couldn't we?
Thank you, gentlemen, for letting me be in front of you today to present to you a presentation on the Ports of Plains Alliance. And just witnessing how fast you guys move through your agenda, I'll try to go as quick as I can so that I won't hold up your commissioners for today. My name is Lauren Garduno. I'm President and CEO of the Ports of Plains Alliance. I have been since September.
And I have a bad habit of interrupting.
That's correct.
That's how come I didn't say your name.
Garduno, yeah, Garduno, yeah.
I skipped it.
Yeah. No, that's fine, yeah, Garduno. I have a little tilde over the end, which is jalapeno, I guess. But, I have been with Ports of Plains since September. Prior to that, I had 35 years with the Texas Department of Transportation, various positions, mostly in West Texas, and finished up in administration in Austin, Texas. So came on board. I want to give you kind of a quick update of the Ports of Plains Alliance. Val Verde County, you have been a member of this alliance since 2000. I'm grateful for that, appreciative of that. And y'all been a long-standing supporter of the alliance, and I realize if you think about the history, and I'll show you here in a minute, probably down in Del Rio and Val Verde area, there hasn't been a lot done. You haven't seen a lot of activity in that 20-something years of time. But I think I've got some good news for you. In the end, I think you'll see some things happening that might spark some new interest in kind of what we're trying to do with this corridor. Next slide, please. So I'll give you a quick history for those that may not be familiar with it, and then I'm going to kind of focus what's been going on with Ports of Plains in the last 5 years, and particularly this last year, and then I'll finish up and kind of trying to focus in on Val Verde County and some of the areas around here. Next slide, please. So Ports of Plains corridor is a national highway system, high priority corridor. It goes all the way from Laredo to Denver, and it was designated as that in the 90s. It starts in South Texas, travels up to Colorado. And it basically brought into existence in 1991 with the ICE-T. At the time, that's the Federal Highway Bill. Next slide, please. The main reason was NAFTA. 94 signed NAFTA. Trade is going to increase. We're going to see that increase. We need to try to improve maybe the transportation corridor north and south out of Texas. If you think about our history of our highways in the United States, a lot of our major highways are east-west highways because we migrated from east to west. We don't have a lot of north-south highways other than the cattle drives that happened in the late 1800s, right? So it's kind of why you don't see a lot of that in place. But we did know there was going to be some volume and trade was going to increase over those years. Next slide, please. Ports to Plains corridor is a part of an alliance made up of 2 other trade corridors. You can see there on that map, the southern part is the Ports to Plains. The middle section of the United States is called the Heartland Expressway, and the northern section up in South Dakota, North Dakota, is the Theodore Roosevelt Expressway. So really what we're about is we are a transportation advocacy group that is promoting a better infrastructure system from Mexico to Canada to support the trade that we have with both of those countries. Next slide, please. In 2004, what happened in 2004 was 4 DOTs, Colorado, Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, got together and said, we need to put together a management plan on how we maybe going to build out this corridor and try to improve it. And so they, actually Texas went after the money at the federal level. It was given to Colorado. Colorado took it and did the study and came up with some outlines, some priority improvements. The key goal there was to try to get up from a 2-lane to 4-lane highway. That was the mission, 2-lane to 4-lane highway all the way from Laredo all the way to Canada, if we can. Next slide. They came up with a set of plans, short-term, mid-term, long-term plans of how we're going to try to build this out. Keep in mind the time frame, 04, because I'm going to give you some history real quick. It's happened in the last 15 years, that kind of how that affected that in some ways. If you look at that map, really, you can't see it very well, but the slides will be available for you for looking at that later. But you have running through there, you have an already existing interstate that is from Lubbock to Amarillo that's on that corridor. You actually have some 4-lane divided that went down into the San Angelo area. But south of Sonora, we all know it. It's just it was a 2-lane highway, and really north of Amarillo, it was basically a 2-lane highway. But that was the plan in Texas to try to build that out. Next slide. So in Texas, when they approved this plan, you got to realize that our corridor had to compete with 10,500 lane miles of highways in Texas called the Texas Trunk System. After Texas built their interstates, built some of their major corridors, their next evolution, this was in the late 90s and the early 2000s, was we want to add a 4-lane divided system across Texas. We'll call it the Texas Trunk System. And back then, then Commissioner Robert Nichols, now Senator Robert Nichols, was on the Highway Commission. He was pushing for us to try to improve our highway network. The corridors in the red, those that are in red, were identified back in 2001 as being Phase 1 trunk system corridors. And why is that important? That's because the Highway Commission then was going to start putting money on those red corridors to try to start getting them up to 4-lane divided standards. But as you can see, south of Sonora, on our Ports to Plains segment, down to Del Rio, all the way down to Laredo, that was not picked up as a Phase 1 segment corridor. So it was just it's a trunk system, granted, but it was not picked up as Phase 1. So the Highway Commission then, of course, wasn't going to become their top priority funding to try to start building this out. That's what was happening in 01, 02, 03, 04. Next slide, please. This is what happened to the funding in Texas, though. In 2004 to 2008, they were putting about $140 million a year on corridors, just straight for corridors. This is not congestion. This is not maintenance, road preservation. This is just corridor development. But from 08 to 15, that number went to 0. It went to $0. Texas ran into a problem just like other states did. We ran out of highway money. And commissioners were having to make a decision. Are we going to reduce congestion in our major cities? Are we going to rehab our highways and keep them maintenance and keep them together? Or are we going to build expanded capacity corridors? They had to make that kind of decision. So as you can see, the expanded capacity corridor was kind of lost in that debate or in that direction. So from 08 to 15, really basically there was no funding other than bonding going on in the major metropolitan areas. Why is that important? Because as you sit here today and we talk to Val Verde County, you say, we haven't seen a lot of activity, on our corridor for a long time. And the reason being is that not only were you not Phase 1 trunk system, you were trunk system, but you weren't Phase 1. Phase 1 even ran out. They stopped building 4-lane divided even on the Phase 1 when they ran out of that money. They went to something called Super 2. You may have heard that term before. It's a Super 2 corridor. It was designed and created by a district engineer up in Childress, Texas. It said, it's kind of a poor boys, expanded corridor. Y'all seen it. You've seen it even on our 277 out here, both directions out of Del Rio. It's a passing lane. You'll run a passing lane for so many miles, then it'll flip. You'll run a passing lane for so many miles. That's what we refer to as a Texas Super 2. Now it's a nationally adopted program to try to improve capacity. But something big happened in 14 and 15 in Texas. Voters passed Prop 4 and Prop 7. Prop 1, oil and gas severance. Prop 7, sales tax. In 2016, TxDOT was spending $60 million a year on corridor development. In their next UTP, which is their 10-year construction program, which in 16 it was $35 billion statewide for 10 years of construction. The next year, their UTP, which they vote on every year, went to $75 billion, just based on the projected revenues from oil and gas severance and sales tax being put into the Texas Highway Fund. So lo and behold, in 17, all of a sudden the Highway Commission started dusting off plans, and they started going back and looking at their corridor program again, and they dusted off those corridors that they had kind of mothballed in the 2000s, and they said, you know what, we need to probably start trying to look at building out some key corridors again. And they started putting money in what we call Category 4 of the UTP, which is corridor development. That number has grown from 16 now, since the last 6 years. Every year, the commission votes another 10-year program, and 1 year falls off, 1 year is added on, based on revenues projected. And this year, in 23, going into August of this next month, they're going to vote on a unified transportation program of $100 billion. It was $35 billion in 2016. So that's how much money has been put into the Texas highway system to build out. Now, a lot of money has been going to congestion, clear lanes. A lot of it's going into, they're putting a lot more money in rehabilitation. They're putting a lot of money in the energy sector preservation of roads, because that Prop 1 money comes out of the energy sector. And so a lot of it's going back into that. But they also are spending a lot of money on statewide corridor development. In fact, they're going to spend $1.8 billion per year to develop these corridors. That's big for us. That's big for, Ports Plains, because we are part of that discussion. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of the Unified Transportation Program that's going to be voted on next month. I highlight some couple of things there. The top box is kind of goldenrod or whatever. That is, shows you that their 10-year program, they're going to put about nearly $18 billion in Cap 4. Statewide connectivity, which is the rural part of it. Statewide connectivity, which is the urban part of it. Part of the logic there is you can, San Angelo, for example, they have an MPO. You can spend for rural money up to San Angelo, and then inside the MPO boundaries, you can spend some for urban money to try to make that corridor go through San Angelo. So it's an example of how those two categories of funding work together to try to complete a corridor. Energy sector, $3.5 billion in Levy-S and $1.2 in district safety programs. Those are important because a lot of our upgrades and improvements are safety related too. So your district engineer, this Epi Gonzalez, who sits in Laredo that serves this area, he can actually go into Austin and ask Austin for money for safety related projects also as we build out the Ports Plains corridor. The Highway Commission on Category 12 down there, strategic priority, will spend $14 billion in the next 10 years. Granted, a lot of that is going towards Texas Clear Lanes. You can see another $6 billion below it, Texas Clear Lanes, but they are spending, the Highway Commission is putting a lot of money on projects up and down these different corridors in different parts of the state. That's where we got to that $100 billion. But then I highlight one other box on the very bottom, and this, in my mind, this is the one that doesn't get talked about. This is the one that doesn't get discussed. When you get the money given to you from the highway department, they say, okay, we got a project, let's go to work on it. Or we want to build this project. Problem is and especially if you see this at the federal level a lot, they'll push out federal dollars and they'll say it needs to be shovel ready. You've heard that term. And the problem with it is it's not shovel ready because either the agency or the local government has not done the planning work. You got text engineering, planning, environmental, right of way, schematic. You got to get all that done so that you can be in a position to go after the construction money when the construction money comes available. In Texas, TxDOT will spend in 10 years' time, they will spend $34 billion in that planning area, trying to get these projects ready to go to construction. It's a large number, and that's the number that people don't talk about. That's the number. Where does that show up? Well, every 2 years, TxDOT has to go in front of the legislature and ask for that legislative appropriations request, right? They got to just they ask for their budget, and it's an operating budget. That operating budget includes that $34 billion. They're going to go through 5 of those LAR cycles in 10 years, every 2 years. So after 10 years and 5 of those cycles, they will have asked for $34 billion for engineering, planning, schematic, right-of-way, environmental clearance, those kinds of things. That is important to us because that's what Ports Plains is going after. Those are the monies that we're going to be pressuring the highway department and say, listen, We want you to put the monies on these corridors to start this planning effort so that when the shovel-ready term comes along, money comes along, we can be in a position to try to go get it. Pause there for questions.
Well, I guess the concern is whenever you sit in whatever meeting, either Ports to Plains, I-27, I-21, 90 corridor, it's just like we just keep dreaming up stuff to sit in. First question I ask, where are we getting the money? You know, here recently we've been on the 90 corridor committee, and again, how much money do you have? And then how are you gonna split it up?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been asking for the highway between Eagle Pass and Del Rio. You know, we appreciate the Super Twos, but you go out there and the Super Twos don't really help because you can't get around anything. Because by the time that you get up and want to get around them, you know, and there's 4 trucks in a row.
Right.
I mean, it's a safety issue.
You're right.
And then we sit here and we've gotten a habit now of going to Comstock and try to go eat every 2 weeks. Well, you go out there, and Jesus Christ, the amount of truck traffic in the evening is unbelievable.
You're right.
But again, we do all these planning, which gotta have it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we don't seem to be able to get any money. And
Yeah.
like I told them, if we could come up with a better process, I get it. There's areas that need more than we do. We sit on this 90 corridor deal, and there's a guy down there close to Houston. You know, he was giving numbers how many trucks have started to come through there. It's just unbelievable.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
But you got to throw us a breadcrumb. You got to give us something. I mean, Jesus Christ. And so I guess my question would be is how do we get in line just to get something?
So let me, I think I can help you with that, Judge. I think I can help you with that. I've got a slide here that I think will draw attention to that question. Next slide. So let me answer your question. Let me get through a couple slides. I'll answer your question on this because it kind of relates to this. Because of what's happened in the last 5 years, I think is going to start changing this conversation that you're bringing up about how do we get in line for this funding, right? One of the things is TxDOT did a freight mobility plan in 2018. TxDOT made the recommendation to do a more detailed study about a future interstate expansion. Okay, we haven't had that conversation in Texas before, you know, with I-27 expansion. It wasn't even we were just trying to get the 4-lane divided, right, under the old plan. That was amazing that TxDOT even made that recommendation. In fact, the person that made it, I remember the lady that made it, she kind of got in trouble with the administration for making it, right? You know, because they were trying to, I guess, be, I don't know if agnostic would be the right word, but just kind of, you know, not make a commitment either way. But, next slide. But that didn't last for long because then you had a pretty aggressive senator up in Lubbock who said, you know what, TxDOT, you're going to study it. You are going to study it. And they wrote a bill into it. Forest Plains had some influence in that because the lobby, Forest Plains' lobby actually helped working with Senator Perry and helping writing some of that legislation to try to get that study done. The study happened. When the study happened, lo and behold, the next slide. Well, that shows you kind of what the study was going to cover. Again, you can see down in Del Rio and Val Verde region, we have a lot of 2-lane highways. That golden picture, you know, that golden stuff down there. And we have some Super 2 in red, but for the most part, we don't have, we have a lot of 2-lane highway down here. So you haven't seen a lot of activity. Remember that earlier slide on trunk system? It was not a phase 1, right? So that's the reason why you didn't see a lot of improvements, south of Sonora. Next slide. But those were the numbers. Those are the numbers that came back from TxDOT study that said, you know what, this is a pretty significant value to try to go to interstate standard across on 27 on the Forest Plains corridor. It creates that kind of savings and cost savings in travel, creates those kind of jobs, creates that kind of GDP increase, the $2.84 billion GDP increase that's going to be a benefit to cost ratio of 2.4. That was a big study for TxDOT because it all did change TxDOT's mind on Forest Plains and what we need to be doing with it. And that has continued to change. That is now effectively has basically shifted TxDOT's opinion about Forest Plains and what we need to be doing in terms of trying to build this corridor out. Next slide. So there's Board Advisory Committee. Judge, you said that you have a membership on that. Val Verde County has a membership. That was written specifically. City of Del Rio has a membership on that. They meet twice a year, and you get to make up, not only did the advisory committee come up with recommendations of projects up and down the corridor, but you meet twice a year to make sure that TxDOT is continuing to push those projects up and down the corridor. So you have a voice on the I-27 Advisory Committee as of Val Verde County and also in the city of Del Rio. Next slide. And, next slide. And that advisory committee came up with a list of project recommendations. 20 of them were interstate upgrades, 26 of them were relief routes. And this is the whole corridor from all the way up from north of Dumas and Dalhart down to Laredo. And 32 what we call safety operational improvements. For example, the border inspection stations would be an operational improvement, would be included in that list. So we have a list. Now the question is, how do we fund it? Back to your earlier question, Judge, how do we fund it? Something happened big in January for us, though. Highway Commission, next slide. These are just a list of those projects. Next slide. I'm going to skip forward because the next two slides is basically talking about the interstate designation that became formalized and did happen. We got it signed in March of 15. It was signed by Biden on the appropriation bill. So last year, basically what happened was Forest Plains got future interstate designation at the federal level. That was a big thing for us because then all of a sudden it was easier for us to go after federal dollars. That's one of those pots of money that you're talking about, trying to find a pot of money. By getting a future interstate designation, we now become eligible for pots of money at the federal level that we would not have been eligible for otherwise. So that's one of those water faucets that have been turned on for us as a potential funding source. But this year, what we've done, next slide shows this. Next slide is we went from just a future interstate designation to actually putting the number on it. We just assumed it was going to be 27, and we were told we could not assume that, and so we had to work with our congressional delegation. Cruz and Corwin's office and Lujan in New Mexico and Heinrich in New Mexico, those senators, and actually put an interstate numbering designation on it. We had to work with the Midland Odessa people because they did not want to be left out of the way the numbering system went. So we included, next slide will show that numbering system. We used the east and west designation on some of our diverging segments, kind of similar to the 35 corridor. If you follow 35 through Texas, it splits to east and west because the Fort Worth people and the Dallas people, had their own interstate going into the respective areas. We have a similar setup also on our corridor on 27. North, it diverges again, but this time it does not come back together as an interstate. Both of them terminate in two other existing interstates. So we are going to use the 27 designation to Raton, and we're going to use the 27 North designation up into Oklahoma. Eventually, hopefully, Lord willing, someday we'll actually carry that designation all the way up to Denver, on to Lyman, Colorado, and tie into the Denver. That's where our route ends, at Lyman. But really, to your earlier question, Judge, about this money, next slide, I think we'll kind of talk about this. Next slide. Next slide. I want to show you this slide right here. So when I told you in 16, when the commission got some Category 4 program again, the UTP doubled, over the $75 billion, they went back and they resurrected their key statewide rural connectivity corridor program. Basically, it was going back and dusting off the Phase 1 trunk system and trying to see where we needed to upgrade to 4-lane divided highways. Those red segments there are the ones that they originally picked in 17 and 18 to start working on. They started funding them in their UTP to try to make sure that they completed those gaps of what we call the old Phase 1 trunk system corridors. For us, it was good because we had that red segment of the Forest Plains that goes from Dalhart down to San Angelo. From there, it diverges. If you've ever driven that area, really, that corridor, Phase 1, went from San Angelo down over to Junction, on that corridor, and they're building that out. They're building that out to a future 4-lane divided standard. 281 in the middle of the state, you have, I think that's 59 from Laredo to Houston, and then you have that 69 and 175 from Beaumont to Dallas. But what they did in January, the January Commission meeting, was they picked up another key strategic rural connectivity corridor to be funded with Cat 4 program. And that was all the way from McAllen in the valley, all the way up to Laredo, all the way along our corridor from Laredo up to Sonora, I-10. The logic is, if we build a 4-lane divided highway, particularly from Laredo up to Sonora, all this truck traffic right now wants to go west, whether it's west on 10 to California or west on 10 to Denver. Right now, we can get them out of San Antonio and off of 35 and peel them off and get them over here on this corridor. So we have now the Highway Commission going to be working with those the district engineer, in this case it's Effie Gonzalez, Laredo, working with Effie to at least put the money in place to get us to 4-lane divided standards from Laredo all the way to Sonora. And we will now start getting that programmed out. It will start happening because they've committed to doing that. What we got to do as the Ports and Plains Alliance is, and we've already been working with TxDOT on this, was TxDOT, when you do your planning, when you're trying to go look at your right of way for 4-lane divided, and you do your schematic, you do your environmental for 4-lane divided, go ahead and take the extra step and do your planning and your schematic and your environmental for a future interstate standard. Go ahead and get your planning work done for interstate upgrade standards, even knowing that they're going to get the money to build at least 4 lanes of it. And then what we will have to do as an alliance is continue to work with TxDOT, going after some federal highway money, some other state money. There's a lot of money at the federal level, that IIJA bill. There's a lot of money in there that is discretionary, that comes back to the states. We've got to ask for it. It doesn't come back to the states by formula. So we are going to go after that money to try to get our corridor up to interstate standard. And that is that we feel pretty comfortable is going to, at least we know for sure we're going to get the 4-lane divided working, because it's now a key strategic rural connectivity corridor. Stop there and pause for questions.
No, I mean, like I said, we sit on different committees. I mean, this one's I-27, not I-27, and then we've got another one that they're coming at us and wanting us to join I-21, Del Rio to Dallas type deal, and they're picking a route. And then the TxDOT's already started the 90 corridor from Van Horn all the way to Louisiana or something like that.
Yeah, the I-14. Yeah,
Well,
there's an I-14 that goes east and west.
Well, the 90 corridor, the one we have now,
Yeah.
is when we just started, or TxDOT just started, I think, 3 months ago.
Yeah, they're doing a planning study on 90, but it parallels that I-14, also I-14 route is what's going to parallel there. So that is a forts to forts, east-west corridor that they're trying to pick, skipping all of the major cities of Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and running right across, and then.
Well, the one that we're looking at right now goes from Van Horn, Del Rio, goes through San Antonio and ends up on one side of Houston and then into Louisiana.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can send you that just so you'll have it.
Okay.
And it's again, when you start the conversations, it's real hard to compete with the major cities. And I get it, they're going to have more congestion. But if there was a formula that once you have the amount of dollars, if you can do San Antonio like this 90 corridor, but you got to do something between Del Rio and San Antonio.
So the saving grace there is that the commission does have 17 of that $100 billion program is dedicated to these corridors, right? It's not dedicated to clear lanes, congestion, downtown Houston, the 45 corridor that got held up for a year. It's not dedicated to that. It is dedicated to corridors, which we just didn't have that. We didn't have that until 2017. So the game really started changing for us in 2017 and having this conversation. So I realize it sounds like a lot of years. You've been a member since 2000, and I appreciate that. But and in fact, y'all been kind of one of the founding members of the Ports and Plains. I appreciate that too.
And if it wasn't Sid's Cawthorn, it was his dad that probably sat. One or the other has sat on this since it started.
Yeah, Sid has been an active supporter of it since day one, yeah. And I do remember Sid. I mean, I was a district engineer in Odessa, so part of the corridor ran through my district too at the time. I do make some of these Ports and Plains meetings and having a conversation with Sid about it too. So,
Is there a plan when all this might be completed? What year, more or less?
Yeah, there's a couple more slides. I'm just going to show you what the Laredo district is doing actually for you in Del Rio. Let me flip forward those two slides. I think we'll show it. Commissioner Flores, I think we have an answer for you on that. Next slide. Yeah, so right now, the red, these are two tabloids that TxDOT puts out, and they give them in those I-27 updates every, twice a year. They kind of keep updating. So what you see in orange on that tabloid, and this is a little secret about TxDOT's tabloids. If you see an orange tabloid, that means that's a project that's under construction, kind of like orange cones and orange barrels, right? If you see a blue tabloid, that blue table below it, those are projects that are fully funded in the TxDOT's 10-year UTP program, right? And so, those projects are guaranteed to be going to construction within the 10-year window. Sometimes they get accelerated and moved up into the 4-year window. And then you have a purple tabloid, and that's the next slide. And you can see that Laredo has asked for a lot of planning work on the corridor, which includes the Del Rio area, Valverde area, all the way up to Sonora. Because, like I said earlier, they're now as the commission has picked it as a key strategic corridor, EPI is putting the planning work. So this money, Commissioner Flores, is sitting, the planning work can start today. You can see the environment, they can do the environmental today, they can do the schematic, they can do the public involvement. There'll be discussions about what do we do around Del Rio, how do we get the route to make it fit around the Del Rio? How do we get the route to tie into y'all's international bridge or bridges or whatever, that you end up with? We will have that conversation, but so that planning work, I think you'll see a lot of planning work, environmental schematic within the next 2 years. And then some of this will actually peel off and go to construction. As each year they bolt the UTP in, you can bring that project into that 10-year window each year. So as soon as we get the next 2 years of planning out of the way, then all of a sudden we can start going after purchasing right away and getting ready to start trying to build highways.
It's been an ongoing project for many years.
It has.
Y'all don't have like 10 years from now we'll be done with the main corridors, or
so
it's gonna take 20 more years to finish, or.
So I retired from TxDOT in 18, did some part-time for them until just last year. If I live to next March, I'll be 60 next March, okay? My thinking is, if I do this job, I'd like to see the whole corridor built in a 20-year window. Maybe if I live to be 80, Lord willing, I can see that. And I'm talking interstate. I want Interstate 27 from Laredo to Dalhart.
I mean, it's important. I mean, we need it,
Yeah.
definitely, but it just seems that it's taking.
To do that, it's $23 billion for me to get that done. And it's going to, so I'm going to have to clip it. I'm going to have to get a construction sequence going of about $1 billion a year, better, $1.5 billion a year, clipped for me to get a 20-year construction program finished. It's a big number. I realize that. Yeah, I know. But I mean, that's from what Forest Plains brought me on to do. And I'll just tell you a little secret behind that. I was district engineer in Odessa. At the time, we got the Craddock Relief Route built, around Odessa with no money, basically. We used scrounge for money. This is 06, 07. At the same time, I became a district engineer in Abilene in 2009. The first thing I did is I went out to Big Spring and said, well, let's start the planning. I started having conversations with landowners. I was sitting down right in houses with landowners and talking about what can we do. Maybe we probably get this relief route in Big Spring going. We got the Big Spring relief route planning work done, and this is the key. We got the planning work done, and then lo and behold, in 2012, Prop 12 came through, and it gave these districts some money. And Drew Darby approached me at the time, sitting there saying, Lauren, would you work with your fellow district engineers about maybe we can cobble some money out of this allocation that went to these 5 districts and see if we can put it on getting that Big Spring Reliever Route. That Big Spring Reliever Route exists today because we were able to do that. We had the planning done and sitting there so that when the money did come, we got some of that. And then lo and behold, it wasn't 2 or 3 years later when I was in Austin already by that time, when Fred Underwood, then commissioner out of Lubbock, was able to get another $50+ million put on the north part of that reliever route. And that's why Big Spring has a reliever route today. So that's the magic that we got to work. I hope that helps.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Anyway.
Y'all have any questions?
Can we get a copy of it?
Yeah, Carlos has that copy, that presentation, and I'll leave it with you. Y'all have that. And thank y'all for inviting me and letting me be a part of your court today, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. What? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Jordan Edgar. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I just wanted to say, this conversation, this topic, obviously goes hand in hand with the future development of Valverde County, and I hate to keep banging the drum. And we all know what the future implications would be of this, specifically in the area. And if this does bring a bunch of economic boom and a bunch of growth for Del Rio, if we were to expand, talking about the bridge and route, if we were to expand on the north of Del Rio, we kind of limit ourselves to the housing and so on development if that were to be north of Del Rio too. So I just would like to, again, reiterate, you mentioned the route going down to Laredo. which to me makes a lot of sense for, for consideration for that vacant land south of Del Rio. That's all I wanted to say. So thank you. Sorry.
Appreciate it. I was gonna say something, I'm just gonna stop, I'm not gonna say nothing. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Item 14, discussion possible action by financial advisor or on certificates of obligation and or tax note. And then item 15, discussion possible action to consider and act upon a resolution authorizing and approving publication and posting of a notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation, financial areas, public improvements, and providing for an effective date. I don't think we have enough information for these.
I'll make a motion to table both of them.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton. Second. Second, Commissioner Flores. And I think we're gonna try to get more information, and it just, so y'all know, I think we're gonna try to get more information during executive session, and it'll probably be brought back to look at it after executive session. Is that be part of your motion, Commissioner?
That's to bring it back after executive session.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton. Second is accept.
Yes.
All those in favor on both items? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 16, discussion possible action approving TRC invoice, number 109144, Valverde County, EDAP, Escondido Waterline Project. And, real quick. It is an invoice for $2,000, is that correct? Right? 2,000. And the reason I'm going through the numbers is, and I know the commissioners have it in their packet, but just that it was brought up a little while ago during citizens' comments. So, it is an invoice for $2,000, and it's preliminary assessment on ecological, and it's period of performance 4/29/2023 through 5/26/2023. So we're going to have a couple of these, one's for 4, one's for 2, one's for 4, and then we'll do the third one, and we'll try to explain it as we're going. But that is what the invoice is for, and Carl, this is for the study that is going on for the extensions, or where there's no water lines, basically. This is a study.
Yes, sir, this is, what these two invoices on the agenda are today is, for work that's been completed on the continuing environmental clearance for that part of the project out there in Escondido where there's no water lines currently, to provide for those households that have never been served. And so the Texas Water Development Board, requires that the entire ecological and all the environmental assessment be complete before the project can move forward.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Or do y'all have questions? Y'all have questions, or y'all gonna have a motion? Motion, Commissioner Wardlaw. Second, Commissioner Flores. And there's 2 of them here, and then we'll go through there, and like I said, there will be a little bit more discussion or talking about these that way, since it was brought up a little while ago in citizens' comments. This is one invoice for $2,000. I have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, second, Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 17, discussion possible action approving TRC invoice 109338, Valverde County, EDAP, Escondido Waterline Project for.
Motion to approve.
Okay, and this one here, I have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. This one here is for $4,000. I don't know why I took off my name, right? And it's also preliminary assessment of ecological, but it's for the time period 5/27/2023 through 6/30/2023. That's how come we have 2 invoices, but they're different time spans.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 18, discussion possible action approving outlay request number 8 to TWDB for it's going to be the water project in the amount of $6,000 and authorize county judge to sign. The $6,000 is what the total is between item 16 and item 17. We're just asking to get reimbursed the money.
Yeah, it'd be 100% reimbursement.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion, Commissioner Flores, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 19, discussion possible action approving Texas Infrastructure Group LLC invoice number 1 for supplemental agreement number 1, Valverde County Target Range. Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 20, discussion possible action approving quarterly report, second quarter 2023, April, May, June, for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Target Range facility. Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second.
Second.
Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 21, discussion possible action approving resolution authorizing submission of local park grant program application, park to be developed in precinct 4 to be Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 22, discussion possible action of Valverde County Local Park Grant Program Certification Program Assurances to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Have a motion?
Motion.
Have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 23, discussion possible action approving affidavit posting public hearing notice and citizens participation plan for 2023 local park grant application to Texas Parks and Wildlife. Carl, what were you looking at on this one?
All you're doing there is just attesting to the fact that the county posted the notice. We had the public hearing at the last Commissioners Court meeting. It was posted on the county website and also on the county clerk's official bulletin board.
Second. Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 24, discussion possible action on Texas Parks and Wildlife Community Outdoor Outreach Program Grant Workshop, Tuesday, July 25th, at the Valverde County Public Library from 1 to 4 p.m.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 25, discussion possible action on disbursement of ARPA money. This one and the other one we have, well, on this one here, were you able to give us a total amount?
Yeah, that's in the vanilla folder.
Okay.
That's in
If
there.
y'all don't mind, we'll table this, that way we give everybody an opportunity to look at the numbers. Second. A motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 26, we've already done. Item 27, discussion possible action on using funds out of ARPA to buy box fans for the elderly and maybe even some window units, maybe like 110 volt window units or something like that. Under public, probably 25,000.
Make a motion to approve 25,000 out of ARPA.
I'll second that for discussion. How are we gonna distribute this, Judge?
What we would do, what I was thinking is, we would need to come up with a plan on who's gonna get it. And I would think we start probably 65 years and older. And whatever fans we receive with that money, Roland's right now looking to check and see if we can get some and where, because we had partnered with other big box stores during the winter storm and stuff like that to help us. So he's looking at cost and looking at that to be able to bring back to purchasing. And depending on how many we get, I would think we would distribute them. There's one of two ways. We do it at fairgrounds, or we can give it to each precinct. Depending on who's gonna need it, you start off, separating them off equally. And then if a precinct can't hand out that amount, then you figure out another way.
I think they did it this way, Judge, to do it, and I had several phone calls on fans from different families, but I said, well,
Well, we have public health. Would you mind going to 30? Okay. You change the motion, please.
I'll amend my motion to go to 30.
Second accepts? Second accepts. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores, and we did have a major line item for public health and stuff, right?
Yeah, what was the motion to take it out of public health?
Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Well, out of ARPA, and then I
The
was
box
public
fans,
health.
25,000.
30,000.
30,000, and you're gonna come up
Box
with,
cans and.
We will, and maybe
Small
some window
AC
units.
when should we
One
expect
can.
that? When are we gonna happen?
it would happen now. I mean, if, I would say as soon as we can get prices, then it's gonna happen.
Okay,
We go through that process, make sure the process is correct.
okay. Sounds good. Go ahead.
Thanks. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 28, discussion possible action on update on Senegas Road project. I've not been involved in any update since the last time, and I think that they were still working on numbers. I don't know if you had something else, Commissioner.
No, just, concerning, the money that we're.
We put 2 items on the agenda, 4 funds. We will have that discussion in executive session and get with our bond counsel, in executive session to figure. We will have them on Zoom, and then we can come back, and if you want to address it under that item, or just leave it under the financial advisor.
Yeah, what advice? Okay.
No action.
No action, okay.
29, discussion possible action, we're going to update on expansion of community center. I don't have anything.
Judge, the only thing, the reason I put that there again is that, you did mention on the last meeting that maybe, not this project, but the one with the precinct 4 yard shop, we could break it into, phases,
Mhm.
and maybe we could, hire some of our local vendors
Mhm.
to do the work. I approached Melissa on that, and, she said we couldn't, but
That we could not?
well, that's what she told me back then. I mean, this week, that we couldn't break it into phases.
Right, the whole project itself is gonna be bidded out,
Why?
because then we're breaking it up into sequential, jobs for one whole project. And if it's over $50,000, then we're gonna have to advertise for it.
Okay, the advertising wouldn't be the problem, and I'm not arguing with you, I'm just trying to get to something. The advertising wouldn't be the problem, because we would still have to go through the process, whatever that process is legally. But if we didn't bid it out, why could we not bid it out, the concrete and then the building and the electrical? And bid every one of them out to see if we could save some money, even, whatever that process is, to bid it out. Yes, sir.
What are we talking about?
I'm sorry,
Are we talking,
it's item 29.
right, but I just heard about a shop.
Yeah, I know, we left that out on there, I mean, yeah.
When he said shop, all he wanted, the reason he referred to the, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the reason he referred to the shop, because the last time that we took action on the shop
But
was
is it,
to
I
bid
guess my
it.
question is.
It has nothing to do with this one.
Right, is the shop part of the community center?
No, sir.
Then we can't talk about it.
But, okay,
Not the way it's listed.
I wouldn't, okay, I changed my deal. I'm not talking about the shop. I'll talk about the community center. Okay, that work?
That works,
Okay.
but that wasn't the focus of the
Yeah,
commission.
no.
Well,
I
any
will-
particular project,
I will, I'll quit talking about the shop. Okay. On the community center, why can we not bid out, different parts of it separately and go through that bidding process versus having to put it all together?
Because the whole project in itself is gonna be more than $50,000.
I understand that, but each one of them is probably gonna be more than $50,000. We'd still bid it at, well, I take it back. If we bid the concrete, and I bid the electrical, and I bid the plumbing, and I bid the infrastructure, can that happen? If we bid it, if we go out for bid, because the whole project's gonna be
Under
$50,000.
that one project, yes,
Okay.
that we,
So we can split it up in each department, or by concrete, electrical, plumbing, or whatever.
and
As long as we go through the process of bidding it, because the whole project's gonna be 50,000. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
and
that
then
would
one
work.
whole bid, and then the contractors or vendors can.
The different contractors can bid on different items,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
You were just concerned that because the whole project was 50,000, might have been trying to circumvent.
Right,
But that's not that's not what we're trying to do. He's just trying to get a little bit better prices and get individuals to bid on it. Okay? You need a motion from us to be put out for bid and a breakdown.
No.
To me, if we could get Gaduos to break it down by departments, that way she can figure out what she's actually gonna ask for in a bid for the community center.
Judge.
Nice timing.
I would like for purchasing Melissa, to maybe, bring it up, an agenda item the following meeting. And that way you can research that, see how we can do it.
Well, she just told you, if you want to break it out in trades or departments,
Basis.
it can be done. She can do that. All she needs is for Carlos to give her items of what she wants to be bid out.
Okay.
Which anything that we do with the community center, because it's over 50,000, will have to be bid. Because altogether, it's over 50,000. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, we'll let Carlos.
Yeah, and just go to work on it, and hopefully in a couple of weeks, or in a month, we can probably get bids back, and then we can vote on who's getting what.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
No, actually.
Do you want an agenda, you want a motion for that, or are you
We
okay?
did that last quarter. Well, we haven't tried to.
Okay. Do you want anything to be more specific for this, or are you okay just going and doing it?
No.
David, are we okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Item 30, discussion possible action for the Commissioners Court to authorize reimbursement to Honorable Judge Sergio J. Gonzalez for registration fee in the amount of $325 for 10 to 2023 annual to approve.
Right.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. Might need to come out of his travel and training. Yeah, out of trouble. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. I'm sorry, listen. Item 31, presentation on Son of Ag Life and Community Program Year. Yes, ma'am.
I will be brief. Good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie King. I'm the county extension agent for Texas A&M AgriLife and with Valverde County. Hello. Can I have help passing these out to Judge and... Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll preach. And so, just a brief overview of our program year. I am going to start with this first one that has Walk Across Texas on it. I can show it to you back here. I do health programming all over Valverde County. I try to spread myself evenly across the precincts. This is the second year that we're doing Walk Across Texas, which is an adult program. It is an 8-week program. The focus is to get people active in Valverde County. Obesity and inactivity or inactive lifestyles are major health factors, which of course contribute to heart disease and diabetes, which are also our hot topics here in Valverde County. And so it was very successful. We had an increase in teams, participants, and then we have Better Living for Texans, our grant funding group, come up with our economic impact number, which was $731,000. I also have some information on demographics right on the second page. So if you want to know more specifics on that, and some progress that was recorded from before and after surveys. In conjunction with that, we also did a smoothie bike. I guess you could call it a smoothie bike, 2 sessions. And we did one at the mall, and then we did another one at Valverde County Library. If you haven't seen our smoothie bike before, it's a bike with a blender attached to it, and it's powered through pedaling. And so people love that. It's for kids. We have adults who want to get on it, so we have to raise the seat, and that's pretty funny. But that was the bridge between our adult activity program and our kid activity program. The kid activity program or youth can be found on the second page.
Leslie, we should probably have a contest with all the commissioners, all the members of the.
You wouldn't get much of a smoothie if I'm riding that bike.
We could. I could bring it.
Margarita.
I could bring the smoothie bike. Yeah, that's a great idea. And so it was a
Bring it
bridge.
next time the commissioner.
Okay.
He's playing, Leslie.
Okay, but I really could bring it. It was a bridge to our youth program at Garfield Elementary. Every year we have the opportunity to partner with an elementary school. This year we had 140 participants, 2nd and 3rd graders. I was with them for 7 weeks, and you'll see here we did half of the PE class that we were together. We did education, and it was all about healthy drink choices, and then the other half was hanging out together. We also gave them incentive items like water bottles. We did food demonstrations. It was a lot of fun. And then we went ahead and tried to do something different this year. We previewed a Fresh Start to a Healthier You, which is a 4-week curriculum with our ESL parent group. And we did that all in Spanish. So that's the nice thing, is that AgriLife is trying to get more of their programs to be completely in Spanish, which makes it easier on me, because then all of the health words that I don't know, they tell me. So we're really excited about that. We're going to be doing the full curriculum with them next year. And so you should see more of that in the fall. We're also going to be doing Cooking Well with Diabetes. I reported on this last year. It is usually a paid program, but we did have it approved to be given for free because we are equal opportunity. And so we're going to be offering that to the housing residents. And so we'll be doing that at the beginning of August. It's a 4-week cooking class program, and it's all diabetic-friendly recipes. So we'll be doing that with Housing Authority. And then if approved with Isidro, we'll also be doing a kids' healthy cooking camp. And so that should be a lot of fun. I'm trying to get this all done before August and then get as much as I can done before October because I'm pregnant.
Well, congratulations. When's the due date?
October 28th.
Oh my God, you got a schedule in front of you.
I do. I'm trying to get everything ready so that come January, I'm prepared. Do we have any questions?
You're never prepared.
Good luck.
Yes,
Just keep thinking that.
I know. Crazy.
Leslie, thank you so much.
All right,
I have any
thank
questions
you.
for you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay. Item 22, discussion possible action on approving a lease between Valverde County Kickball Tournament on behalf of Jose Rivera. Is it Jose? That was one we were having trouble with. Is it Jose? Okay.
Move.
Second. Motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Let you get up there that way. Discussion possible action to approve a 1-year or 3-year agreement with Spectrum on internet services at the processing center. Options are 1 year contract for $21,180, and I would assume that the $17,988 is for one per year, but for 3 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Motion to approve for 3.
And motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw. And these funds, we're gonna try to go back and, recoup these funds, either through Operation Lone Star or, the tent people.
Right.
Right?
Is that correct?
The people running the tent.
Our homeless shelter.
Is that
It's a
is,
processing center.
it is the processing center, right? Okay. I was gonna
I
write
didn't
that.
know, if they paid or whatever, it's tent people. Motion, Tita? Tent people. Motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 34, discussion possible action to approve capital outlay purchase of a 200 HS line laser striping machine for $29,990 and approve the budget adjustment of $10,357.67 from Precinct 4 operating to Precinct 4 capital outlay. This purchase price through by board contract number.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion Commissioner Flores, second Commissioner Wardlaw, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 35, discussion possible action to approve the capital outlay purchase of a John Deere Z994R diesel mower for $17,034.42 from Precinct 4's ARPA Parks account. This purchase is priced through a by board also.
Motion to approve.
Motion Commissioner Flores, second Commissioner Wardlaw, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. This, item 36, discussion and approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 4-0. Item 37, Closed session consultation pursuant to Texas Government Code A 551.071, parentheses 2, attorney-client privilege, B 551.071, parentheses 1, parentheses 8, contemplated litigation, C 551.072, regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property and possible action in open session thereafter. D 551.073, regarding a negotiated contract, lease, or value of real property and possible action in open session thereafter. E 551.076, regarding security devices, security audits, and/or security personnel. We'll take a little 5-minute break. And then if y'all will give us some room, we'll be in executive session. Thank y'all.
Yeah, I know, the more I read this, the more fucking confused.
So the light to turn on. So, okay. The red light is on. Tabled an item, item 10, item 10, number A, or letter A. Discussion possible action on following budget adjustments, Constable Precinct 3, $145 from office supplies, travel and training.
Deny, he has, funds in his travel and training.
Can we say from where?
From,
His, Leo's.
he has 5,000 something in Leo's, which can only be used for travel and training.
So motion to deny this one, but to have them take it out of Leo's.
Yes.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries, 4-0. And item 25, discussion possible action on ARPA money. If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna bring that back in 2 weeks. Doesn't affect us one way or another. But to be able to come up with a table that y'all can look at other than the date of the meeting. So we'll leave item 25 tabled if y'all don't mind. Is he on? Yes. Is there one of them there? Item 14 and item 15 were tabled. We're just gonna try to take care of both of them at the same time, and then if we go to make a motion or whatever, we'll go to a specific item. Item 14, discussion possible action by our financial advisor on certificates of obligation and/or tax note rates. Item 15, discussion possible action to consider and act upon a resolution authorizing approving publication and posting of a notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation to finance various public improvements and providing for an effective date. We've got both, Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Binford on the line. I guess this one would be for our bond counsel question. Are you there, Clay? Yes, sir.
I'm here.
One of the concerns that I have, I'll be real honest with y'all, with both y'all, the numbers in trying to pay off a $10 million note, whether it be a tax note or certificate of obligation. I'm not real comfortable with the numbers personally, and well, you can say, I don't understand how we can come up with that much of a payment when I'm going through the calculations. So my question to you, Clay, is I would like, me personally, and I don't know if the court feels like this, but I think I would like to have more time to look at this, at least a couple of days, to make a decision on which way to run. But my question to you now is, I have an item 15 that says discuss and possible action on a resolution. If the court was to vote on the resolution, that way we wouldn't have to come back to the court to do it again in 2 weeks. If you could hold off on moving forward, basically until I'm comfortable or we're comfortable with the numbers. In other words, we could give you the authority, but just wait for a little bit before you pull the trigger on that one or the tax note. And if I can get...
So let me...
Go ahead.
I think a little clarification might be helpful. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if someone can put it on mute. So tax notes have a limitation of 7 years of maturity. But you can sell those at a regular meeting at any time. So you don't have to take any preliminary work, you just have the numbers that are delivered to you and you approve the deal or not after you've given direction to staff and consultants to go out and find a potential purchaser for it. And then we submit that to the Attorney General's office of the close court process. Certificates of obligation are a little bit more involved process in that we can go up to 40 years in amortization, but we have to publish notice of our intent, which can only be published once you take an action by the court, and the publication has to be in place for 45 days before we can sell the certificates of obligation. So if you approve the notice of intention today, we can hold off on public intent, and you can just decide if you want to go tax notes or COs. And then once you give us that confirmation, if you want to go COs, we can go ahead and publish it, start that 40-day clock. Or we can come back and do tax notes. So you're really not harmed by doing either one. You're providing yourself some flexibility. The important thing is that you have your debt sold before you levy the tax.
My question would be is, if we do a tax note, we are using portion of the repayment from hotel motel tax because of the gun range. We can still do that under a tax note, even though it's hotel motel?
Well, yeah, and they can do that under either one. We're tax note or CO, we're calling this what the security for the debt is. It's not necessarily the source of repayment. So we'll sell the bonds as secured by your ad valorem tax, and that gets you the lowest cost of borrowing. A portion of that debt is going to be satisfied by a hotel occupancy tax transfer. So let's say that you need $100 to make your debt service payment, $20 is coming from the HOT, then you'll levy a tax to pay the other $80 in my hypothetical. And so that's how you use it to make your HOT revenue go further, because that's not as good of a credit as your ad valorem tax.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which mechanism you use, you can still utilize the hotel motel tax, doesn't really matter.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm with the judge. I need some more time. I mean, I literally got this today. And I'm kind of like him. I need to make some more sense out of it. But I don't want to obligate us to vote to issue COs and then we decide in a week or two that we don't want to, and it creates a problem.
And I just took it over to David. And David, you correct me if I'm wrong. The resolution is basically giving the county judge authority, the court needs to give me authority to sign. And at that point, then we could make a decision to move forward or to stop. But
Does when we set our tax rate, does the debt have to be issued or the intent to issue before we adopt a tax rate?
The debt has to be sold.
And so we have to be completed with the process.
Yeah, so the way that it works is you bring the interest rates to the court, you approve them, and then we have to go through about a 3-week process to submit this to the Attorney General's office for review and approval. As long as we have sold, we don't have to be closed with the Attorney General's office, but you need to be sold in order to identify that it's outstanding debt and support the levy of your tax rate.
I've got a question. For you guys to move forward with this, you would have to have a signed resolution from the county judge.
If you do a CO.
If you do a CO. And you could always come back in 2 weeks and authorize us to do it then. I was talking to Matthew, and I believe that your levy of your tax rate is not going to be till the end of September. I think that your schedule would still work that way too.
I have to have a proposed tax rate put out in August. So we will have to have a guesstimate in order to have a proposed tax rate. Now, if it comes back and it's less than the proposed tax rate, we don't have a problem when we go to finalize our tax rate. But we can't go over whatever we propose.
No, I get that part.
Right.
So we have time. What is your time frame? What was that time frame for issuance of CO? You just gave us 45 days plus 3 weeks plus.
Well, right. Well, so you would adopt a notice of intention. We would then go to the newspaper and we would publish. I believe we publish on Wednesdays. So we would publish on the first Wednesday after you approve, and that starts a 45-day clock. So if that is, let's say it's August 3rd or 2nd, then that puts us 45 days, it's mid-September. You sell COs at your second board or your second board meeting in September, and then adopt your tax rate.
But if we wait 2 weeks to make the decision, that'll put us over September.
When's your next,
The next-
well, when is your next commissioners court meeting?
The 1st of August.
So you approve it then, we would go ahead and pre-prepare the paper to publish on the 2nd. And if you decide not to do it, we just tell them not to run the publication. But if you do it on August 2nd, then your 45 days is going to be September 17th.
Really close. I think we have to make a decision by next week. The reason is because I have certain days that I have to hit between my filing and passing.
Judge, would it be a problem if we approve the resolution that does not tie us into any specific numbers until you guys figure out the tax rate and all that good stuff? I mean, can we do that?
I think you can approve.
Yeah, you can do that. And you tell me.
Once
The numbers are good. And let's do this. Motion to approve the resolution and then give the county judge authorization to sign. And we will need to pick a couple members of the court to sit down with Matt and our bond counsel to make sure that the numbers are correct and fit within our tax rate. Bo, you're sitting there thinking.
Well,
It's gonna be really close.
No, I mean, I get it, but the problem is that you almost have to publish the notice next week, the latest.
That would give you a chance to do that.
Yeah.
If you can vote by next Wednesday, you just have to go through this process before Wednesday.
Yeah.
Next week.
All right, I'm not 100% comfortable with it, I'll make a motion that we, approve the notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation, authorize the judge to sign, and
You okay being in on?
that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That before the decision is made to go with COs, the judge and myself will sit down with the advisors. If we decide to go with tax notes, we bring it back at the
And
next
Matt.
meeting. And Matt, and we bring it back at the next meeting. If we decide to go with the tax notes instead of the certificate of obligation, but they're not to be run until the judge tells them to run them.
Second, I'll second that motion.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Make sure you get all that.
And that would have been on item 15.
That's item
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. And
To provide, okay, wait, this says provide for an effective date.
we can give them that when we, tell them yes or no.
Which will be next Wednesday.
Yeah.
We don't need to do the effective date right now?
Well, David just said we can do it effective, next Wednesday.
Effective next Wednesday. Amend the motion to put effective next Wednesday.
Second, accept.
That would be on the 26th, just for the record. All right, I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Let me take the record book, that way
No, it's
that
fine.
way I don't have it. Commissioner Wardlow, how do you vote, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Nettleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Flores,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Vote is 4-0 on item 15. Item 25 was going to be tabled. The other item was 10, and we took care of that. Is there any other?
14, Judge, you need to address 14 now? I know the motion.
14?
15.
No, we're good. Anybody else? Commissioners' comments? County judges' comments, none. 11:33, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.